Welcome, everyone. The time is now 4:19 p.m. and I call the Education and Economic Development Committee meeting of the Orange County Legislature to order. Please note meeting is being transmitted by a live video stream. Public can find a link to this video stream by visiting Orange County website, www.orangecounty.gov.com, clicking the tab for legislator and locating the Education and Economic Development Committee meeting on the calendar. I ask you at this time, you please silence your cell phones, tablets, and electronic devices. Thank you. And a note to be mindful that the microphones in the statutory room are very sensitive and robust. At this time, I would like to ask you to please rise for a moment of silent reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Let me have a roll call, please.
O'Donnell.
Here.
Ramos. Here. Skevich.
Here.
Sassy.
Here.
Sierra. Sidenko. Sutherland. Here. Benita.
Here, President.
Present James.
Thank you all very much. Item 1 on the agenda is Stephen Newhouse, County Executive, for request of appointment Orange County College Board of Trustees for a term expiring June 30th, 2024. Legislative request 207, excuse me. May I have a motion in a second? Second. O'Donnell and Sassy. Sir, Mr. Board, the floor is yours.
How you doing, Genesis? Janet, I haven't seen you in a couple of days. These guys, I saw one.
Just so rude. Just spent an hour with them.
Exactly. Anyway, I'm here today. The county executive has appointed Nick Galobri, who some of you may know as the trustee for the College Board of Trustees. And I'm here to seek confirmation from this body of this appointment. You have his resume. He's a very highly regarded Orange County College graduate. And in fact, I found out in discussions that we were walking across the campus at the same time back in 1969, 70, 71. But he's also been involved, as his resume shows, in many, many different aspects of the community. And we just feel that he's an excellent choice for the board. And we seek your confirmation.
Thank you, Mr. Kapoor. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you very much.
Very much. Unanimous. Next up, item number 2, we have Amanda Dana, Tourism Director, for a quarterly update.
Yeah, I think they're just coming in with some of the technology requirements.
Wonderful. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you. So I hope everyone received the report. If not, I think we have some extra copies. We haven't gotten them already. So thank you once again. I'd like to kick it off just to talk a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. And I will be a little quick today, knowing that our last meeting was pretty timely. So we'll go. So this is just a quick agenda of what we're going to talk about today. You know, basically fall season, which is our most popular season for tourism in Orange County. We'll talk about year over year. We'll talk about some updates in tourism, and we'll talk about some marketing updates, some data analytics we looked at, and look at some events that are coming around the corner. So this here is the I Love New York partnership that we have. We have someone here who is a leaf peeper for us, and that would be Rachel Carr. And I don't know if she realized that she was going to be a peeper on the first couple months she was employed here at the county. But what that program is that she literally will report into the state of New York based on the colors of the leaves around her. She does it once a week. And just want to say thank you for taking that on, Rachel. You are our peeper. Okay. So let's talk about year over year. First and foremost, I'd like to talk about the fact that our occupancy tax is up 32% as compared to 2021. which is a great indicator of how well we're doing. And also our sales tax collection is up 11.4%, which makes us the highest in the Mid-Hudson region for growth in the Mid-Hudson region, which is great.
Excellent.
So let's talk about some updates. First and foremost, I want to say that the lady to my left, her name is Lisa Santiago. She is our newest employee for the tourism office. And she comes to us with a very strong skill set in graphic design. She has some experience with the IDA. We literally stole her from Rockland County IDA. And she basically is a real go-getter. She runs a platform called Orange County, New York Moms. And we're real happy to have her. And she is my sidekick today to help me with the technology.
Nice to have.
Welcome. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit about Labor Day. I'll talk about this slide in just a second, but Labor Day for 2022, domestically, we are beating the numbers for 2019 when we compare ourselves in domestic airlines and the travel. So just want to say that's a great indicator. And just so you know, the prediction was that we wouldn't have recovered, a country wouldn't have recovered until 2023, and we recovered by 2022. So that's a good indicator for a national level. So let's kick it into sports tourism, because we've had a very busy season in sports tourism, whether it be soccer or lacrosse or track and field with our sports tourism in the throwing and cross country. We have had a very strong season with that. And what does that mean? It means that people are coming here for tournaments, and literally we have thousands of people coming into Orange County, and a lot of them need hotel rooms. And so that's a big push for us. And frankly, we need more hotel rooms, I keep saying, and we need more venues. But we had a very, very lucrative summer and going into the fall for sports tourism. Some of the places we look at is Blue Sky Sports Complex. We look at 12th Rock, who actually does a really good job with bringing in the cross-country events and the track and field. And of course, we know them for basketball. But the other one is Hudson Valley Sports Complex, which is in Warwick, and they also bring in their share of great stuff. So let's talk a little bit about Stewart and some of the things that are happening there. We have been working with Play Airlines since they started on June 9th, and we know that they have had over 23,000 people fly on Play Airline to Iceland and beyond. And I say beyond because Iceland isn't the biggest group of people coming here. It actually is European, and Denmark is the top seller for groups coming to here. I didn't think it would be Denmark. I thought Ireland, Dublin, I would think that, but it's just goes to show you how important it is to have an international airline going to Europe. Allegiant and Frontier have had a really strong summer as well. I don't have their numbers, but I did report on Play. Okay, so some marketing updates. So we, last week, were working with a FAM tour from Latin America. And we did this in collaboration with our Sullivan County partners. And we hosted them in Orange County, in which I thought this was a great slide. And actually, Lisa did create that slide, which thank you for that. It's really cute. I like it. And made this slide, and it shows the importance of why we do what we do. So why do we take group tour operators out? And it's simply because of this. We show them our attractions, we show them what they could book if they were to bring groups in here, and we trickle it down to our large attractions and our smaller attractions. If you see this particular slide, the Av Deli in the village of Highland Falls actually got a lot of business from this group coming in. Storm King Adventure Tours, which Rachel, I bet you didn't think that you were going to be on a kayak in the Hudson River, but they did do that activity, as well as spent some time at the Thayer Hotel and at West Point. And of course, what do they all want to do? They want to go shopping on their way out. We had them go to Woodbury Common. So they spent some time with us, and they really had a great time. And they said they were going to come back and book some groups through us. So that will be a great win for us. And that's a win. So this is a picture of some of the activities that we did. As you can see, that's at Woodbury Common with the I Live New York sign there. And there is, yeah, if you look really closely, Rachel is in one of those kayaks there. She's a trooper. Thank you for doing that with that group. I, of course, was at the Thayer Hotel waiting for them. I didn't get in the kayak, but it was just some groups, a group that was there, and the Thayer Hotel took really good care of us. So I'd like to talk a little bit about our craft beverage trail that launched in August, and it's had great success. And I don't know if anyone here has been on it, but we have saw that many people, over 1,000 people, have downloaded their passports, and either 48, probably 45 now, based on today's activity, 45 people has either redeemed their shirt by coming in, or we've actually sent them their t-shirts. That's the prize they get, as well as other discounts they can get by going to some of these craft beverage locations. And one thing I did learn on this craft beverage trail is when I was talking to some of the partners, they said, oh, this is great, but what are you going to do for wineries? I said, ooh, is that a miss? Wineries are craft beverage. So it's one of the things that maybe we'll do a little social media on it and just make sure that people know what craft beverage means. And that does mean wineries as well. So it's a great campaign. It kicked off well. It's only been open for like 4 or 5 weeks, and we're seeing some great traction. So let's talk a little bit about our social media performance and our campaigns. We thought it was important just to show you how some examples of our social media and how they performed. If you just look at all types of campaigns are running on our social media platforms. But in this one example for Freedom Fest, as you can see, we put some great social media advertisements out there, and over 22,000 reaches. As you can see from that, if you can't see, about 1,600 interactions, and over 900 people actually signed up to go to the event, which is what we really want to see, is when people sign up for those events. If we look at the Craft Beverage Trail social media campaigns, it's really doing very well. And you can see up there, it had 230,000 people it reached, that campaign, and 18,000, I can't read from here, interactions. And so that's a really good number. And we're really proud of that. And that little number 4 is Follow Us campaign, over 3,000 new followers from April to June of this year. And that's really a great stat for people wanting to get to know Orange County Tourism and Film and Orange County itself. And that's a great indicator of great things coming. Okay, so some questions you might have are additional fall winter spend and what's happened here. As you can see, right away, we started focusing on the commercial, the radio, YouTube advertising, billboards, and one more thing, which was a feasibility study. We started on that as well. But right now, we just want to make sure you saw the 30-second commercial. We're going to click over to that.
Well, you gotta get away.
Orange County is an hour.
So that was our 30-second commercial. We did listen to you last time, and we did change that song. So it actually was needed. So thank you for that suggestion on the commercial. And we have more to come on that, but that was our first kickoff. It's called Top Destination Commercial. And as we talked about, that top destination marketing brings in more people to those destinations and trickles them down to our local economies, to our small businesses. And we're hoping this will work. I think it will. We already had a lot of activity already, people wanting guides and want to know more about Orange County. So this so far has been working really well. The radio commercials had started on September 14th, and that's with Z100 and Light FM. Our YouTube advertising is started, and also we're working on those billboards. We did lock into 2 locations on I-86. And that's going to be starting shortly. The last thing I will talk about for this slide, which is not on it because it just happened on Friday, we did have a kickoff meeting for our feasibility study for a conference center in Orange County. And that committee is made up of Steve Gross, Director of Economic Development, Bill Fioravanti, Maureen Hallahan, and Heather Bell from the Chamber. And we are working together to put out there to get a vendor to come in and do a feasibility study. So we just started working on that, and more to come on that, but we would like to get that out this year. So public relations, and we're talking through that, and we've been very busy at public relations, a lot of press releases going out. We have been really happy at some of the success of our public relations. And one thing we wanted to point out, and I believe Genesis, you asked us about some print media last time we were there. And we just want to give you an example of some of the things we did in print. And there's others too that we have done, but this is two that I believe was in one of your attachments. This was the Canadian newspaper Toronto Globe. That was a partnership with Legoland New York. They actually helped pay for most of that ad. We collaborated on that, and we were in the Globe with them. The NHL Ranger magazine, we're in that as well. We have a buy with them, and we have a lot of following coming from New York City from the Ranger magazine. A big contingent of folks like to come out and travel who subscribe to this magazine. And this is also at the Ranger games too. So you can buy that for $6, actually, one of those programs. So so that's what we want to just talk about, some of the print advertising. So let's talk through a little bit. Oh, before I get into this, I just want to talk about some of the things we have done. As you might have remembered from previous presentations, we are continuously working to feed travel writers. So when they call in and they call and say, what's your best hotel? Where do you get the best cheeseburger? Where can you do this? And we constantly send them information. So a couple of things have landed over the last quarter. And one of the things that have landed is the 20 best rustic wedding venues in the country. Brides Magazine picked it up, and Cedar Lake Estates is actually noted as top 20 in the United States for a rustic wedding. We're also in the 21 best day trips from New York City, also a national publication. Orange County is that as well. So we're pretty happy. We'll keep feeding them as much as we can, and hopefully we'll hit more as we go on. Okay, so one of our indicators that we look at is the Oxford Economic Study to see how our visitor spending compared in 2021 to 2020. And I know 2020, everyone says you can't even count that year sometimes, but this is a really good indicator as compared to 2019, how well we're doing. And in 2021, we saw about $909 million in visitor spending, almost back up to that $1 billion visitor spending mark, which was we saw in 2019. Really happy about that. And another thing we should talk about is in the Mid-Hudson region, Orange County is slowly getting more and more of a share of that visitor spending. We used to hover around 20, then 21. Now we're 24% of all the visitor spending in the Hudson Valley is in Orange County. The lion's share is Westchester County. They really have the market on meetings and conferences, and that's really what sets them above it, as well as their proximity to New York City. And this is a good phrase to take with you too, because the Oxford Economic Study also tells us about tourism dollars and what that does. So if it wasn't for tourism dollars, because of tourism dollars, the average homeowner saves $1,095 in their taxes. That's a good stat to take with you because, you know, if you can imagine, without visitor spending, that number would be your taxes would be much higher. So events to look forward to. Apple Fest, the renaissance of the Apple Fest, not the Renaissance Festival, but the Apple Fest has been not here for 2 years. And now it's coming back on October 2nd. We're very excited about that. That festival brings in a lot of folks, a lot of New Jersey people coming here and spending money. And we're pretty excited about that. Brick or Treat with Legoland New York, that occurs on the weekends, and we're very excited about that as well. And the Renaissance Fair that will be here until the first week in October. So if you haven't gotten there to get your turkey legs or your pickles, you better get there because they'll be leaving here in the first week of October. So we're really happy that all those are here. And there's one thing I didn't talk about, which I wanted to talk through just a little bit. And it's one co-op that we have with Hudson Valley Tourism, and that's called Rove Media, and that's a data analytic platform. We look at AirDNA, AirDNA is the platform, and what we look at is our Airbnb properties in the county, and we pulled up some data on that. And just so you know, we have 727 active rental properties in Airbnb. Now, Airbnb takes the lion's share of short-term rentals, so they take 72% of the short-term rentals, and VRBO takes 14%. Does anyone want to guess who the top cities are for Airbnb? Anybody want to guess? No? All right, it's Newburgh. So Newburgh is the top city. Oh, it's on there?
It is.
Oh, I thought these were my notes. I didn't know I put it on there. Oh.
Like Streaming Lakes number
I even
3.
tricked your eyes. Baby, get her a prize. All right.
Come on, what do you think, we're sleeping or what? I'm reading along with you.
All right.
Come on,
Forget it.
come on, you're trying to catch me.
But you're not gonna get my trivia question later. Okay, so, before I go into film, I just want to talk about a couple additional projects we're working on, and you can see it there. Just working with Stewart, we're gonna work on some advertising campaigns with them and working more closely with their airlines. We're starting to work on our travel guide, and we're in the process of the RFP right now for marketing services. And we still continue to do more video content right now, so we're heading out to Orange County and doing a lot of that. Nora,
Yes.
okay, hi Nora. Hi. So I want to go into film, and film is incredibly busy, as you can imagine. Probably have seen some crews around and doing some filming, and that's largely because of one of our big engines, which is called Poker Face. This slide shows some of the recent movies that were films and commercials that were here in Orange County. Poker Face is by far one of the largest productions in the Hudson Valley. And it's not because it's a major motion picture, it's because it's a series. So when you have a series that's a 10-episode series filming here, they anchor in and they spend a ton of money. So Poker Face has been here since January, and they left for a little bit because they had to film in New Mexico. Am I right with that? Yep, thank you. New Mexico, but they're coming back to finalize, and hopefully they're going to have a really good wrap party here, which is their ending party. So they've been here a lot, and they've been spending a ton on locations. I'll show you, I think there's a slide in here showing some pictures of that. So if you look at Restaurant Impossible, I think maybe you guys might have heard of that when we were first, when I came and presented last time, but that will be airing, I believe, before the end of the year. That was a restaurant in Middletown, Franco Roma's. Di Roma, thank you for that, okay. That was really great. Commercials are here too. You can see the an electric truck commercial and the Chevy commercial, they've been here, and BMW. And another show, I think it might be the next slide, which just before we go any further, all of these, Prime, Apple, HBO, Nike, Netflix, they're all here looking to film commercials or movies. Manifest was looking here. I hope they still continue. And there's one more coming here that we hope to get. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in Goshen. I think the next slide is what I want to talk about. Yes. Look who's been to Orange County. We're here. This is a series about drag queens. And that was in Warwick, and that'll be airing probably next year and their next series. And they were at Blue Arrow Farm. Does anyone know what Blue Arrow Farm is?
It's on the way to.
It's almost in New Jersey. It's like a rock's throw from Mountain Creek, but they will be here. They literally drop themselves into downtown USA, and then they just video the reactions of people. And it really has a great following. It has a great following, and people find that incredibly popular. There is another movie or show. Oh, there's some pictures of Poker Face. Cornwall, as you can see, Cornwall on the Hudson is there. And also the Orange County Fair Speedway got a lot of love from Poker Face. Over 300 extras were hired for that one day you see there. And then they came back again to film a crash scene on the track. I think that's right.
It is.
Okay, let's go now. So this is really interesting as well, because this filmed in Orange County. This is called Pinball, The Man Who Saved the Game, and that is premiering on October 8th at the Hampton Film Fest. And this is one that was pretty much exclusively filmed in Orange County. We're pretty excited about that because we did a lot of location scouting and working with their boot camp graduates there. And we're pretty excited about that. We're going to run the teaser on this just so you can get a feel for it.
Pinball was banned in New York City.
It was.
35 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sometimes it's nice to remember you're good at something. This was the first pinball machine I'd found in the city. It never even occurred to me that the game was illegal. I just knew I needed to play. Sometimes it's nice to remember you're good at something. This was the first pinball machine I'd found in the city.
So, that was filmed in Orange County, and there's a lot of locations in there, but the one we just pulled up is just a repeating one, but, Nora, you have anything else to say about pinball? Because you were really involved in that.
That one was, where they're shooting in that scene. That is, part of the set that they created at Umber Stages. It was very elaborate, very awesome, if you can see it in person. But yeah, so, and I believe that they use local people to get a lot of those pinball machines, because a lot of them were vintage, and they used local vendors, people who had collections. So it was very involved, which is amazing.
We can go to see those in person.
I don't know. I don't know. But you'll be able to see it if you want to go to the Hampton Film Festival on the 8th.
So that is premiering at the Hampton Film Fest on the 8th. Nora and I are talking about going down there and taking a look at that film. Okay, so we'll talk about something else here, because another film had filmed here, and it was the third of the Hallmark series that we were talking about. Not a series, but this is a holiday spectacular. This was the largest by budget the Hallmark film spent ever in the history of Hallmark, and it was spent largely here. Some parts in New York City, because they did use the Rockettes, but they filmed most of it up here in Orange County. So we're going to run a quick trailer on that, hopefully.
I want to tell you about an exciting last-minute audition. You're giving up your future and what, to dance?
A holiday spectacular coming in November on Hallmark.
Jimmy's Hallmark subscription is really paying off.
Yeah. So basically that's coming out in November. That was mostly filmed here. We're pretty proud of that one. And we're starting to get known for Hallmark films, which is really great. So this film, The Whale, was filmed last year. As you can recognize that man, Brendan Fraser. He worked with a incredible director, Darren Aronofsky, and they did this in Newburgh. And this movie will also be premiering the East Coast premiere, is it called? East Coast premiere at the Hampton Film Fest, also on the 8th. And they say that Brendan Fraser is up for an Oscar on this one. So if we have something produced with an Oscar, that's just amazing. We were really involved with this as well. And we're very happy that they chose Newburgh to film. So the last slides here, Pretty Little Liars is coming to Orange County. They were filming in Ulster County, and they decided to come to Orange County to film the next series. And they will be here as of December. They already started renting some office space in the Newburgh area. So they will be here, and so will their talent. And I want to look around for them being out on the streets and on location.
Excellent.
Okay, so just to tie this up, Sugarloaf Film Festival is happening this week, 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. This is our first. Our film office worked with a promoter to do this and the town of Chester, and that will be at the Sugarloaf Performing Arts Center, and that starts this week. And we are real excited for the fact that another production that we worked on, The Winter House, will be premiering on Saturday the 24th, and that will be at the theater at the Sugarloaf Performing Arts Center. We're real excited about that. If anyone wants to go, let me know. It's going to be a great event for the 3 days.
I'm very happy to hear about the activity over there at the
Sure.
former Lacey. Right?
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
Right. Excellent. Thank you.
Awesome. So does anyone have any questions relative to film or some of the tourism information? Who wants to walk out in the rain? I do have a trivia question for you before you go, or do you have a
Oh,
question?
we have a couple of questions.
Oh, okay. I didn't see yours.
I'm gonna recognize Mr. O'Donnell first, and then Mr. Chain.
All right, so, the film festival, did we donate any money to that?
To the actual film festival? I didn't see any, I didn't process any, so
Okay, so
Yeah.
they didn't ask us for
not me.
financial support.
They might have, but
County?
they might have, they didn't ask me yet, so.
Okay, the Toronto Globe, how much did Legoland and how much did we spend for that?
To be exact, the lion's share was Legoland had bought most of that. They probably put in 2,500, we might have put in 1,000, but that's not exact.
Okay, and, the Rangers magazine, how much did that cost?
It was a long spend, not just the magazine, it was a spend with a media company through the Rangers, so I can get that information to you.
Okay, thanks, thank you.
Thank you. Mr.
Yeah,
Chain.
who's the organizer you're working with on the Sugarloaf Film Festival?
Nora, Matt's last name?
He's Diamond Productions. He's got a production company. He's working very closely with Walter, who manages the theater in the town. And they've been able to bring in a couple of connections. He had originally started with the Tribeca Film Festival. I guess when he was younger, he actually filmed the first commercial with De Niro. So he's been around the film festival circuit, and they're trying to bring it here because many of those filmmakers are from Hudson Valley, Orange County specifically. So one thing that they are trying to do is, even though it's open worldwide, you can enter, they're trying to highlight as many Hudson Valley and Orange County specific filmmakers and films that's here.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Matt, I'd just like to say, it was only a few years ago, we talked about bringing on the film into this, into this division, and it's been amazing. I really would like to commend you for your job, putting this all together, and I really think you're flourishing. So thank you very much for your time today. Please
Welcome.
continue.
All right, then here goes your trivia question. So,
Okay.
what cheese was invented in Monroe in 1918? Oh, my goodness. Okay, and therefore, so there was a trivia.
There we go.
question. No, see? Yeah.
You should at least get a T-shirt for that.
Probably get lucky.
Well, thank you for your time. Thank you.
You know what's
Thank you.
the United States government has in Wisconsin? Days.
Moving right along.
Remember? So,
It's
probably close to Thanksgiving.
Yeah, Google. What's cheese we have in reserve? That the federal government buys.
How long does it stay for?
In case. I was yeah, they paid the farmers.
Joe would like a nice aged Parmesan.
I would really like that.
It's.
30 seconds.
Oh,
Sorry.
it's just- they did it to me. Yep, the time, the clock's ticking. See that little red, you barrel up there? So, number 3 on the agenda, we have a Mr. Bill Fioravanti, who's the CEO of the County Industrial Development Agency, for a monthly update for the IDA. And welcome. The floor is
Thank you,
yours, sir.
sir. A couple handouts.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman Menuda. I will say that we had discussed in between just after our last session, the idea of providing an overview of the IDA. So I was really excited I thought it was a great opportunity, a great time to do that, given that there has been a lot of public criticism, political criticism, however you want to look at it. So looking forward to going through it. So I'm going to share my screen. I am on the Zoom. Jordan has me connected here.
And just for fluidity, I do have to leave at 5, and Legislator Scouch is going to take over for me at that time. If you go beyond that.
Perfect. Okay, I'll go as quickly as I can. Assuming I can advance here. Ooh, there we go. Okay, it's a little hard to see, but this was just, I thought I'd start with a little timeline With the left of this axis being January of 21 and the right being this coming December, we're 1 year and 3 quarters through that. A lot has happened. I think a lot of people forget how tumultuous this period has been and how much cleanup was needed. But back in March of last year, you did full it that you're fired the IDA board of directors and appointed a temporary board. Now that board was only in place. Their term expired December 31st, 2021. So a couple stayed over, but we had to replace the rest of them. In September of 21, going back number 2 there on the timeline, the comptroller's report, the state comptrollers and the Orange County DA had a joint report on the IDA, the malfeasance that happened, the recommended reforms and such. So that was kind of the start for us to, and the, let's say the blueprint for us to be able to reform this IDA and get it back on the tracks. In October of last year, we hired new general counsel. I think that was, I've mentioned it many times here. I think that was absolutely pivotal. We wanted excellent counsel that had top-notch IDA expertise, but I quite frankly wanted someone that didn't care what Joseph Menuda cared about the IDA or County Executive Newhouse. No, quite frankly, we wanted unadulterated expertise, and that's what we've got, frankly. The politics and such, we'll deal with that. In the following month in November, they hired me permanently. Obviously, a fantastic decision. That's really got us going. In January of this past board, again, the temporary board, this past year, the temporary board expired. And we started building a new IDA board, of course, with, I don't want to say the help of the legislature, you did it for our benefit. Also that month, we received our first application for incentives in a full year. We went a whole year where I would say we're toxic and no one wanted to come near us, but then we started getting a real slew of applications after that point. In August, we hired new bond counsel, so we just did that last month. So we have totally new representation on the legal counsel side. Of course, you appointed our final 2 board members at your full legislative meeting earlier this month. So we have a full seat at 7. So we've gone through, again, a year and 3 quarters, and we've uncoiled a lot of mess and a lot of systems and processes that were put in place, or pardon me, bastardized in order to allow the malfeasance to go on, to hide the preclude oversight, financial oversight, which of course this committee, I witnessed personally trying to get a handle on it. So this is a much different IDA, and it's a completely different set of people, of course. This is our full board of directors. Most of you know Chairman Michael Torelli, works at Port Authority of New York and New Jersey down at Stewart Airport. Mr. Dean Tambury, he's our vice chairman. Dr. Vincent Odock, our secretary. And then the next 2, this is from here on out, it's alphabetical order, but the Mark Green and Giovanni Palladino, of course, the brand new appointees. I've done kind of an orientation process with them, so really excited about them and their contributions. And also James Rinaldi and Susan Walski. Pretty good representation from around the county. We do have a couple of people from Newburgh, not my choice, but I don't want to be blamed for that. But we do have good representation elsewhere around the county as well. The staff, myself, as I said, hired last year. Kelly Riley, who's been here through many administrations and many ups and downs. She's still with us, our project manager. And we just hired Martha Marty Boras as our administrative assistant. So really happy to be able to add that position. We really did need the additional capacity. She has some prior experience with the IDA. She was let go during COVID when they hired somebody else unbeknownst to the board right on the back end in the to be an assistant. So it was another fast one there, unfortunately. But that's the staff, lean, mean machine, and our consultants team. I mentioned the first 2 attorneys. We also, we let go the former CFO because of a couple other affiliations, and we decided to kind of hire out for that. So we have RBT, formerly known as, it's been a while, Vanacore de Benedictus, Di Giovanni, and Waddell. How about that? Now they're RBT, they're our CFO essentially. Our auditors are still Jellison, Giordano, and Siegel. Now they're part of PKF O'Connor Davies. We do have an audit RFP that's out. Haven't had a lot of responses because I think it was a pretty tight time frame. If we don't get enough responses or adequate options, we will likely engage O'Connor Davies for the 2022 audit, and put that RFP back out because they've done it when they were Jellison for several years, perhaps going back to your days, Mr. O'Donnell. So it is time for a change. I think we all understand we want to turn things over. Local labor monitoring, construction labor must be local, 85% of it for an IDA project. I'll get into that a little bit more. We had a firm out of Rochester that was doing our monitoring, going on site, looking at driver license and everything to make sure that they are in compliance. We did an RFP earlier this year. RFP is my middle name this year, and Lan out of Goshen and Fellens Engineering. Those are two firms, local firms that are going to be working with us on projects going forward. And for HR, we do use another local firm, Ethan Allen Staffing Services, for a variety of services. So that's really our team, full team. The mission of the IDA, is to promote economic growth through a program of incentive-based allocations. Usually we are in the industrial sphere, that's really where we tend to work. And we do have a set of incentives that we employ in order to achieve that mission. Why are IDAs even necessary? First of all, the cost of doing business in New York State. I have an illustration of this. I have something I borrowed from the Orange County Partnership, but I think most of you understand this. We are the costliest state. It's certainly in the Eastern Seaboard, really, one or two in the nation, usually in not the best categories. Property taxes, commercial taxes, cost of doing business, your prices that you're paying for goods and such, highest in New York State, so highest in the country. So we do need to level the playing field with some of our competition, including Connecticut and Pennsylvania, which typically have much lower cost structures. They assist us in closing deals, frankly. I know a lot of people like to think that a project's going to happen anyway, or hey, we're going to get this no matter what. No one knows that. I don't want to play that game of chicken. I want to win every project that we come against, a quality project at least. And the IDA incentives certainly help us close that. I'll get into the process a little bit more shortly. Tax certainty and predictability. Some projects, often say an energy project, for example, you had that Champlain Hudson pipeline. They have not come to us yet, but that's one that I know in other areas they have sought IDA incentives, mostly for the predictability of a pilot, where otherwise, if you don't have a pilot, every year you're up for an assessment of your property and assessed for taxes, and it can change every year. Plus, they're often grieved by, especially companies that think that the numbers aren't correct. So that can be a costly process for a local town or city to kind of fight that. But usually these projects are looking for some sort of predictability of their taxes. And then a guarantee that construction labor is local. Again, IDAs like ours, others like Town of Montgomery, we have a local labor policy. So if you're going to get IDA incentives, your construction labor on that project is going to be local, predominantly at least. This is an illustration that I referenced before. I borrowed this from the partnership. It's not even an Orange County IDA project. It's actually Town of Montgomery. Looking at Amazon. Amazon was a great kind of subject for this analysis because they have similar buildings to each other all over the region and beyond. So you're looking at what we have six facilities there between the Amazon and the Town of Montgomery that was just built and opened, just over 1 million square feet. They did get a 15-year pilot from the Town of Montgomery. And then you see these others in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. That's certainly one of our, they have some industrial corridors that certainly compete with ours. Central, really all in New Jersey. We've always been competing from them. It's kind of starting to steal their lunch a little bit because we are able to compete. And you're looking at, say, the number of buildings in the second column that Amazon has, the size of them, all around 1 million square feet, give or take. And then average taxes per square foot. You look at that, say at the top in Hartford, $1.37, as low as 66 cents in Northeast Pennsylvania. And ours is $1.46 for the Amazon Montgomery. And that is with the tax incentives. That's with a pilot.
If I'm reading this right, they're only the largest building they have. They chose to build here in Orange County, 1 million square foot.
I thought we had Northeast Pennsylvania is 1.295, but
yeah, but that's multiple buildings.
Oh, that's right. Of course, exactly. That is true. That is true.
That's a large indicator.
It really is. So this was built. Amazon here was built by Blue Water Industrial Partners. They're based in Pennsylvania. These guys they know their business. I'll tell you that. They know the industry. They educated us on a few things about how we compare to other regions, and they did inform a lot of the study information we got from them since they built a number of these. And then you see at the last column, just to look at, and I'll skip on, second to last, market rent. So we're at about $6. This is actually, that number has continued to go up. This is now aging, this information. You see Northern Jersey, we still tend to beat them. So that is why we're able to kind of pick their pockets to a degree. But that last column, taxes a percentage of rent. Look at those percentages. The highest again in Hartford, and then you see it gets much lower. And then again, with the pilot that the Montgomery IDA granted, still 24% of the percentage of rent there. So that's just an illustration of why do we need that. And here's an example of, since the project was undertaken by Amazon and they received the pilot, everything in yellow is what Amazon is paying through the pilot. several $1 million. You see that's to Coldenham Fire, Valley Central School District, it's the second one, Highway, Town of Montgomery, and let's see, the town in Orange County. The orange is what would have been generated in those taxes if there were no project. So you see what the difference is. There's often talk about how municipalities are shortchanged, and very much the contrary. Oftentimes they're getting a huge influx of property taxes and special district taxes like fire and police, even with a pilot. Incentives, Article 18A of the General Municipal Law. That's just, I'm citing that. Some legislators have asked me where we get our authority from. Where it comes from the state, from the GML 18A. And I'm going to teach you our IDA incentives. You're going to be able to promote these to anyone you come in contact with. Please do, and then share my card and have them give me a ring. It's very easy. The IDA, generally speaking, I call it the three-legged stool. The first, the easiest, sales tax exemption. Right now in Orange County, sales tax is 8.125%. We can save an applicant sales tax on building materials, on equipment that they may use, on furniture and fixtures in the project, only within the scope of the project for which they apply. We can exempt them on that. It can be in the millions for sure for the right size project. Mortgage recording tax, also in the county, if you have a mortgage for commercial property, you will pay 1.05% of the principal of your mortgage. That we can exempt as well. So sales tax exemption, mortgage reporting tax exemption, and then this is of course the big Nagilla property tax abatement. Pilot means payment in lieu of taxes, meaning instead of paying what you would be assessed every year, as I mentioned before, you have set payments that are developed. Abatement simply means phase in. So I like to explain to people, you could be building on a piece of raw land. That land may generate $50,000 a year in property taxes. When you're done building a multi-million-dollar facility, the taxes could be $1 million. All we do over the course of say 10 or 15 years, sometimes less, sometimes more in the case of Legoland, we phase that in gradually. And when they get to the end of that pilot, they're paying full boat. The taxes can never go down again. They can never get another pilot for that project or that property. Orange County Funding Corporations, of course, that's the other side of our agency. That's the LDC, as they call it, the Local Development Corporation, which has a little bit more leeway in terms of what we're able to do. First of all, OCFC is where we issue our tax exempt revenue bonds. I have not done one of these deals yet. In the middle of one, basically a refinancing of prior bonds issued with Mount St. Mary College. But with our new bond council, one of our objectives is to really pound the pavement, make sure that organizations in and around Orange County know that we, that we have the power to issue these. Essentially, it's just low cost financing for large capital projects. And they can only eligible applicants are nonprofits and small manufacturers. So we've done a number of these. And it's typically for, say, a nonprofit like a higher education institution or a hospital to do, again, a major capital spending and finance it affordably through tax exempt bonds. We also have special programs and issues circumstances. For example, during COVID, we had a COVID loan fund, resiliency loan fund, they called it, of course, to help small businesses, $10,000 loans, about 50 of them, 49 we actually ended up giving out. IDAs cannot give loans. A lot of people think we can. We cannot do that. That had to be done through our LDC, OCFC, and it was done only with special permission for all IDAs in the state that was granted by New York State during COVID for that reason. That's OCFC, what we can do. How do we make our decisions? We are governed, and the way we receive, analyze, assess, and vote upon applications for IDA incentives is by following our UTEP. Our UTEP is Uniform Tax Exemption Policy. The GML requires that every IDA has a UTEP and they follow it, that they review it consistently, periodically, and update it. Again, it guides an IDA to approve incentives fairly and consistently. You have to follow it. If we do not, for example, if we award incentives in a manner that's considered, quote, arbitrary and capricious, those are the key words for IDAs, we may have our decisions overturned. So we have to follow that UTEP carefully. Our last UTEP was updated in June of 2019. Just now, I'll just mention the handouts that I gave you. This is an old brochure. I had to tear out a number of pages that had some pictures in there of people we did not want in there. So we're using this right now, but we will be revamping that. Also give you a copy of our UTEP. I'm not going to go through it in great detail, but I will tell you they revised it, as you see, in June of 2019, the former administration did. And in that case, in that review, they de-emphasized distribution centers or warehouses, and they de-emphasized hotels, And they further emphasize manufacturing because manufacturing jobs are usually require greater skills. They're more sustainable. They last longer. They're higher paying typically. Manufacturing is certainly in the industrial realm, really the pinnacle of what we're going for. To me, advanced manufacturing, tech-oriented type of manufacturing. So our UTEP says that a manufacturer that applies, and by the way, it's incumbent upon the applicant to attest to the fact that they need these pilots. There's no litmus test for us to do an analysis to say, do they need these? Or I know that's talked about in the public eye, and I get it. But they attest under threat of perjury saying we need these incentives and they justify it one way or another. When they do, if they're a manufacturer, they're eligible for a 15-year pilot, period. At the end of this UTEP, you'll see if you skip to the back pages 6, 7, 8, for example, page 7 is the Schedule B for a 15-year pilot. So if you're eligible for a pilot and they're awarded it, this is exactly how it's spelled out. Year 1, they get a 95% abatement all the way down to years 14 and 15, 10%. So my point is we have to follow this unless a company applies and does not meet, or for some reason we really have justifiable reason to deviate from our pilot, we have to stick to it. The one example I'll use is I saw it in the news in criticism of Royal Wine here in Goshen. A politician said, look at the number of, we gave a 15-year pilot to Amy's Kitchen. They promised 600 jobs. I love those folks, yet they still haven't built. I still believe they're going to, but they didn't promise a lot of jobs. They got a 15-year pilot. And then they compared it to Royal Wine, 120 jobs. You're still giving them a 15-year pilot with the abatement you see. It's because of our UTEP. I absolutely have already spoken to board members individually, and I will this month, about the need to do a comprehensive review of our UTEP. We need to do that periodically anyway, as I said before, to make sure we're incentivizing the right sectors that in the right kinds of jobs we want to bring here. So it needs a review anyway. But are there ways where we can tighten up, where there are added incentives for a greater number of jobs? Those are things we have to analyze. We're looking at potentially a scoring rubric to help us guide that and a few other options. But I will say this in our defense, I'm not being defensive. This is absolutely the truth is I showed you that timeline. There's no time before now that I think we could have gone through that review, that I think would have been prudent to do so. We had a temporary board until January. Now we're rebuilding that board. Again, the board wasn't even full until last month, a few weeks ago. You did fill it for us once, by the way, Mr. Chairman. We knew that, and we lost a couple, but we had to get refilled again. And now we're at that point. I still think we need a couple of months so this board can kind of develop some cohesion and know each other and develop what I'll call an equilibrium of where do we stand on hotels or warehouses or certain industry sectors. And then we revise that policy. So I absolutely think that's prudent. I'm not the decision maker, but I'm going to encourage the board that we do so. So I think you'll see that happen in the next several months. A couple of success stories. Legoland, 22-year pilot. They wanted a 30-year pilot. We negotiated 22 years. It's a monumental project. Even cut down after COVID, the job numbers are 1,100. What a lot of people don't realize that when they're done, they will have 500 full-time employees, meaning year-round permanent employees in marketing and such, not all ticket takers. A lot of people don't realize that, but over 1,100. I also thought it was a pretty nice story that you saw on the cover of the Record a couple of months ago, where you showed 125 kids from Newburgh NFA, I believe it was, employed by Legoland, going out there, getting work experience, working with the public. Tremendous benefit to not just Goshen, but all of Orange County and the region. Mediacom, we retained this company, added, I think, 150 new jobs, from 400 jobs in Blooming Grove. Restaurant Healthcare, they've done a number of projects with us, over 1,500 employees. We did get recent criticism, by the way, where they sold to a real estate investment trust. We assigned their benefits, meaning we kind of transferred their pilot to that company. The questions the board asked were they continued to create the number of jobs and retain the number of jobs they promised to during that term and everything else that they promised to? Yes. The answer was yes, so we awarded the benefits. As long as we continue to get those benefits, we'll let the remainder of the pilot run out. McKesson Pharmaceutical, this is the kind of sectors I'm talking about, future ready sectors: healthcare, pharmaceutical, yes, tourism destination, e-commerce fulfillment. These are the types of projects we're incentivizing. This is a bond deal, a new emergency room for St. Luke's in Newburgh. Warwick Office of Technology Corporate Park. I've talked about this a lot. This is the former Mid-Orange Correctional Facility, a prison that was slated to be closed. Governor Cuomo announced it in 2010. 10 years later, it is truly an economic engine. We have 2 cannabis manufacturers building. Green Thumb is just unbelievable how quickly that's going up. 400,000 square feet to grow, process, cannabis. Of course, we have Hudson Sports there. We have a brewery there. We have an adaptive sports complex, Trans Tech, a bus company. That really could have been a blight on the community. The IDA invested $3.5 million because it was a former prison. There was an economic development grant from the state, which no other area took advantage of. We got $3 million back. So for $500,000, we totally turned, again, what could be a blighted former prison with overgrown weeds and boarded up windows to a true economic driver in that corner of the county. And the COVID-19 fund. Of course, that was done. We needed to do it. We're not getting, we do have a few companies that a couple have gone out of business. A couple others are not paying us back. You know, we're doing our best on that, but it was still a very good thing we did for the community. Okay, let me zip through these now. Top 5 myths about the IDAs. IDAs write checks to applicants, either as loans or grants. Absolutely not. We don't do either. All we do are tax abatements, as we're talking, either exempt them from sales tax and mortgage recording tax, or abate, phasing, and taxes never go down. They never stay put. They go up over that time, and again, they can never go down again or be reduced. When a pilot expires, companies typically pick up and move to wherever they get the next best deal. I hear that all the time. In Orange County, that has happened 0 times. Take a look at Neelytown Road, all the incredible United Natural Foods, FedEx, UPS, so on and so forth. So many of them generating, I think the total is about $8 million a year in taxes for local Central Valley and such. Most of those came in pilots. Their pilots expired, they stayed. They're paying top dollar in property taxes now. Has not happened. One, did get criticism from one politician on Medline. Medline was in 500,000 square feet in Wawayanda. They just grew to 1.3 million, more than double. Obviously, the easy math there. They wanted to stay. They could not grow any further in Wawayanda. They wanted to stay in Orange County. We helped them. Well, actually, we did not. They did not receive a pilot. They went to town of Montgomery IDA. They received so much political pressure that they backed out. Applicants go through the planning board approvals are clearly coming here anyway. I totally get that as well. You're seeing someone present and apply to the IDA, and then you find out that they've gone to, say, the Village of Goshen. They're going through the planning board approvals. They're spending money at that. They must be coming anyway. No, and I'll tell you why that's a myth. That's a myth because one of the rules that we also have to follow is that our board cannot consider incentives for a project unless that project has gone through a secret determination. So they've gone through State Environmental Quality Review Act, which is a very stringent environmental review process that you have to go through for any project in the state. Usually a planning board is the agency that adopts the secret process. So they have to go through a planning board process, receive a secret determination through that in order to even come to us. So it's a real catch-22 because it does appear that if they go through that, well, then they're already coming. So it's a real catch-22, but that is a myth. The power of IDAs is unchecked and therefore we're out of control. Hearing that certainly a little more from some of the same sources. That couldn't be more untrue. The authority's budget office of New York State governs us very closely. You may recall the Orange County Partnership being in a lawsuit with them. I mean, they are not fooling around. We have been audited several times by the ABO. We have to, in the bottom corner, Paris. That's a reporting system through which we multiple times a year have to report on our projects. We have to call and get verification of job numbers that these projects attest to and such. Very, very stringent. We also, on the top right, is the Office of the State Comptroller. And they are also looking at us. We get questions on our Paris reporting from them. They don't just come look at us when we have a scandal. I promise you there. They're constantly part of the oversight. And of course, the Orange County Legislature. Not that you directly oversee us or manage us, but you appoint the board when things got bad and you weren't getting answers that you saw. We saw what you did. So you certainly you got everyone's attention with that. And of course, I'm here every month reporting. That's not what the IDA used to do. I know it's what this committee wanted. I'm happy to do it for as long as you like. Last one, there's an uprising against the IDA by local mayors and supervisors. That too is a myth, and I'm just going to show this. Can you imagine? I think it was last 2 Tuesdays ago in the morning. I'm reading this and I saw, look at that clip art. I mean, that's a true mob coming after us. Local, and it was a letter signed by 26 local supervisors and mayors, signed by Senators Martucci and of course Skoufis and County Executive Steve Newhouse. Now, County Executive just was at a meeting of economic development professionals, and he first comments made were, I did not sign on to this letter. This is not, I talked to every supervisor. They did not intend to be a part of this. And he said, you need to be behind the idea. You're either we're an economic development community, you're either for us or against us. And I do appreciate that he came out so forcefully. I have heard from other supervisors that said the same thing. We didn't need to sign on to something like this. And they said they'll write some sort of response. I'm not going to count on them. I'm not going to hold my breath. But I can tell you absolutely, I verified myself, this is a political maneuver. I'm not saying that no one has questions about the IDA, that they don't want a greater seat at the table or talk to us about, other processes that we could follow. But everyone knows me. I go to associations of town dinners. I think many of you here know that I go all the time. That's not just because I'm looking for a night out at home. I promise you that. It's because I'm always looking to forge relationships and deepen those relationships with our local leaders, have dialogue. They all know they can pick up the phone and call me. Actually, somebody I spoke to said, Bill, we never intended to do this. We know that things are going the right direction with you. So that is unfortunately hogwash. But I'm not dispelling any criticism, or I'm happy to talk. We want to be better. I'll tell you that all the time. We want to be more transparent. We want this body for sure to be behind us and believe in us. And we want the general public to do the same. Let me just finish by talking about, thanks very much.
I apologize.
Thanks for the time. No, I know we're
Great
taking
job.
a lot of
No,
time.
I
Thank you.
enjoyed this. Thank you.
The year ahead, we will, again, I imagine we'll be reviewing and revising our UTEP as well as our local labor policy. That's something that needs constant review, consistent review. And again, right now, we've recorded that 85% of construction labor on the project is local. And local, by the way, does not just mean Orange County. We couldn't possibly meet the demands with just our workers available in Orange. It's everyone in our region: Orange, Ulster, Sullivan, Dutchess, Putnam, Westchester, and such. I got most of it. So that is a requirement. A standalone recapture policy. Recapture meaning clawback. A lot of people talk about that. Hey, these companies apply and then they don't do what they say they're going to do. Well, we haven't had very many, if any, examples of that, but I can promise you they will not under our watch. Absolutely not. We have a recapture policy that's part of another policy. We're working with our lawyer to pull that out and strengthen that so that if somebody does not do what they say they're going to do in their initial application, that there are consequences. We recapture or claw back some of those incentives. You will absolutely see that. That is not hot air for me, I promise you there. Winding down the remaining accelerators. This is the news I don't love talking about, but in November is our last lease in the city of Middletown for the accelerator there. We have just been losing a ton of money in that location alone. We've closed them in Newburgh, New Windsor, Middletown will close. We're keeping Warwick up for the foreseeable future, mostly because it doesn't cost us anything. We pay $1 over the entire term of our lease with the town of Warwick for their manor house that they've refurbished for the accelerator clients. We support them, and we do charge subtenant rent. So we do get some income as a result of that. It takes our staff time, no question, and we try and help these accelerator clients whenever we can. That one we're keeping open, again, just because the costs are low. We'll see if we continue to do that for much longer. Marketing and PR, we had an RFP out. The deadline was last Thursday. I got 6 responses to that. Just like for our Shovel Ready initiative, we got 6 responses from great firms with wonderful proposals. I brag about that because, again, people considered us toxic for a while. There are a lot of firms that want to work with us. Marketing and PR, we clearly need to improve our messaging. We need, in some cases, crisis communications. That's certainly not to neutralize any attacks, but in order to be able to respond to them, again, with proper messaging. Look forward to making a decision, recommendation to the board, probably for the October board meeting. We'll work with a local firm on that. And Shovel Ready, not going to go into much greater detail, but this, if you may recall from prior presentations, this is an attempt to inventory all of our remaining developable sites around the county, score them, rank them based upon their assets, proximity to highway, water, sewer, natural gas, power, et cetera, et cetera. And so we want to be able to provide this inventory, a robust inventory. We'll have GIS maps and others that would be great for the Orange County Partnership to use to market for site selections for our own purposes. But really, the end game for me is to identify top sites where we can bring better projects, that we can bring when I talk about pharmaceutical manufacturing, electric car manufacturer, anything in these types of sectors that we can bring here that require more services on a particular property. We could do something like what we did in Warwick and bring additional infrastructure to a site in order to attract a better company in a better sector, better paying, more sustainable jobs. When that land is sold, we've recouped those proceeds and we go do this somewhere else. So we've just selected a firm, Delaware Engineering, who's worked with the county quite a bit, because infrastructure is what this project's all about, and they are experts in that. So they're presenting at our board meeting on Wednesday about phase 1 of this project. I'm excited to keep you posted on that. You all know how to contact me. That's the main number of the IDA. That's my cell phone. This is going public. It's being streamed. I don't care who calls or texts me. I did, after some political attacks recently, I certainly got some nasty grams via email to the IDA. I responded to all of them, and I tried to engage everyone in a conversation. I want to be open. I want to make sure people understand how we make decisions, take any constructive criticism and go forward. So I encourage that from all of you. If there's any time remaining, I'll answer any questions.
Any questions?
Yeah, Bill, thank you. I think you should do that presentation once a year and just tweak it, because there is a lot of ignorance, not only among the public, but among legislators as well.
Sure.
That, we hear IDA, and of course, some politicians, and it's election year, and you become a football and they're kicking you in the head. And,
Absolutely.
you've got to respond to that, the IDA does play a very important role. And, you've laid it out here, but I think that's something that's got to be repetitive, because we lose track of that, of what the IDA actually does, and the benefits far outweigh, the slander, basically.
Right.
You see newspaper reporters and, that artwork that you use there. I mean, it's all to conjure up this image that, we're giving away the store, which is not the truth.
Yeah, thank you. And I will do that. And I'm going to other groups. I presented to the Rotary Club. I didn't have all this content because, again, some of the recent criticism really I think it was helpful that it made me hone our messaging and better articulate really the nuances of this work. And I have the Walden Rotary coming up next week. So
We'll get you
continue to do
back.
that. Please, yeah, great. Thank you.
Other questions?
Yeah.
Oh, Legislator Cheney.
Bill, you mentioned when you talked about the property tax, the property tax abatement, that they can never get another pilot. Can they grieve their tax rate during the pilot?
No, they agree to that. They
Precluded?
ensure that absolutely. That pilot is firm through that term. After that, I suppose they could.
Oh, yeah, no, clearly.
Sure.
after that.
Royal Line, for example, when they're done with their pilot, would be paying $4 million a year in property tax. They could choose to agree to that.
And then as far as the UTEP goes, is there somewhere in the current UTEP that reflects the local public sentiment and political sentiment relative to the acceptability of the project?
I don't think that's explicitly listed in the UTEP, but that is something I will take back for sure. For obvious reasons. I didn't go into great detail, but
I think it's a component of the whole thing, and it probably belongs in it. I'm glad to hear that your intent is to take a look at the UTEP and refine it, because that there are some, I think, legitimate concerns out there, especially relative to that aspect of it, and the local communities having an opportunity to feel that they were heard and be part of the calculation.
absolutely. Yeah, no question about it. Right now, we have public hearings, so everyone, local officials and otherwise, can come and obviously hear the grievances or whatever. they
Including
might say.
state senators.
Absolutely, for sure. Who sometimes don't show up at the public hearings, but find a more
Right,
dynamic way
yes.
to do it. That's often what we're seeing. But I have conversations with every municipal leader, at least in my time here, my 18 months or anything spent. And have ongoing dialogue. That needs to make it better. It really does. Because again, the mayors, supervisors and such that thought they signed on to something like that, thought they were signing on a letter that was just coming to us, just saying, we'd like to have a conversation about having even greater say, greater input. And I think, who wouldn't sign on to that?
Right.
So everyone said, yeah, they didn't see the letter, they didn't ask. I only had 2 calls while I was on vacation. People saying, hey, I'm getting this request. Can you tell me? And the request said, by the way, the letter said, we want you to be just like Rockland County. And I called a couple of supervisors after and said, Rockland requires that the school board actually negotiates the pilot? Well, we don't want that. Well, that's what you're signing on to. The letter said that you insist that we become like Rockland County because that's what the state senator wants. And by the way, some of this criticism, I'm not just trying to attack, I'm open for an open dialogue back and forth after this or whatever. But I'll talk about Senator Skoufis just for a moment. He has tried to change, he's of course a state senator, was an assemblyman for a year before that. He's tried to change the statute, the law, to make it even tougher for IDs to do what they do. He's been unsuccessful in doing that. He's had some bills pass the Senate and fail in the Assembly. So he's tried to come and locally We met with him one of our first meetings with the new board. And he said, you should do this, you should do that. And really the response from our chairman was, we're gonna do what the law guides us to do, not what you think the law should be, what you'd like it to be. And it's not personal, but that is really the feeling. So I think he's tried to come, and this frankly was a stunt with this letter, because no one saw the letter ahead of time. Now, shame on them, but it still was done in a way that was not, completely open. And to me, it's a tactic to try and force our hand here locally. I'd rather it be through a discussion with this body that really grants us, our authority to do so, and in conversation with our municipal leaders. So, Barry, I'm open to that. I hope to appreciate that.
Legislator Ramos.
I have two questions. So, like Legislator Cheney was just saying, I think there are legitimate concerns regarding, and you and I have had conversations about this, because where I fall is, where do we draw the line between incentivizing businesses to come into our communities versus corporate greed? And that's just the reality. So that's one of my main questions with the UTEP and you saying that one of your goals for this year is to, as you look ahead, is to review and perhaps revise it. What are some of the possibilities around that? And if you don't know the answer right now, that's fine. Or just some thoughts around, because I think what feeds so much into public concern. And one, speaking of public, there's such a disconnect with the general public. Most folks don't know what the IDA is, what the function of an IDA is. Like, we're talking here in this room because we can share this language and understand this language to a certain extent. The reality is the everyday person here in Orange County has no idea, the kind of role that IDAs play. So I think that goes into my second question, which is, I know there's public hearings, but I also know they're not well attended, sometimes not attended at all. So what are your thoughts in increasing community engagement so that these public hearings become more attended? So it's twofold. It's wanted to know, first part about how do we create more clear distinctions and ensuring that we are still providing some sort of incentive for companies whilst ensuring that we also are not getting the short end of the stick, right? And then how could perhaps IDA increase that community piece to ensure that folks are actually more aware of what's happening?
Yeah, those are great questions. First of all, on the UTEP, those revisions. Tomorrow, I'm hosting at the Orange County IDA, I mentioned this in prior presentations, a regional IDA kind of consortium. So Dutchess, Ulster, Sullivan, all the way down to Westchester again. We all meet and we talk about issues. So tomorrow, that's one of the topics actually is everyone has shared their UTEP. I've asked about more stringent, kind of approach to it. I mentioned kind of a scoring rubric that could maybe give weight some things, give greater weight to job creation, sectors, this, that, and the other. And I've also asked our attorney, general counsel, Susan Katzoff, to provide examples of other IDAs she works with and that she knows so that we can see who does what. I do feel like a rubric where we'd score and then you meet and certain score, we'd guide you to certain, I feel like that could be really useful. So she's kind of cautioned me about some pitfalls with that. So we're gonna get into all that. But I think those types of directions where you decide, first of all, you determine what's important for us. What are our priorities? What do we want here? Again, I'm all about us going after what we want here, not just what we can get. I do think we should be choosier now. I do think we should incentivize the types of project that brings the types of companies and jobs that we want here for generations. So I totally agree with that, and I think we need to do it. Secondly, public hearings. I've been going to public hearings in a professional capacity for a good 10 years now, and I've been to some that are very full, like Legoland ones, and others that aren't. I think timing is an issue. Sometimes, a lot of times IDA public hearings are 11 a.m. in the morning, 2 p.m., 3 p.m. That's something I've asked the board to consider, that we need to, consider having it in the evening if that changes. I have noticed that in many cases, it doesn't, for some reason, seem to increase. Just the time alone doesn't necessarily increase participation, but I think we have to give something like that a shot. And I think we have to do a better job of promoting it. We are required to provide public notice at least 10 business days in advance so that someone can see in the paper and put it in usually a couple of publications where it's going to happen. But I think it's more responsible if we were to promote it in social media, maybe through the legislature, a few other examples. We can do better on that. Let's put it that way. Those are some ideas, but I definitely want to look to do better so that we have to build trust with the public through that, not just communication, marketing, and PR, but through working in a way that is more conducive to what they're looking for. So I promise you, we'll look at both things.
Thank you.
Okay, Legislator O'Donnell.
Thank you. So thanks for the presentation.
Okay.
Wasn't too much in there for me, but that's okay.
You know, what I'm saying.
With regards to Rockland, all right, so everybody understands, Rockland is not legally authorized to give out pilots. They're Rockland IDA. So this is not the first time Senator Scoopus has thrown out that we should be just like Rockland. Rockland's great and they do this, this, and this. Rockland IDA is not even authorized by law to give out pilots.
Never were given that authority. To
Exactly. And once the board approves a project, it goes to the county exec for signature. All right, so he's also always yelling and screaming about politicians being involved in the IDAs. Well, Rockland County, nothing goes anywhere till the county exec signs it. So that's a couple of myths you can add to your presentation.
And I didn't want to quote
Rockland County IDA.
Absolutely, thank you, Legislator O'Donnell.
And that's not knocking the Rockland
No.
County IDA. That's by law. They're not allowed. That's just facts.
They're a good
On how
agency.
that process works. Yes.
Yes, so their executive director, Steve Porth, he actually grew up in Newburgh, went to NFA. We have a great relationship. I certainly call him about all these things for guidance. And, you know, he quite flatly said, I didn't want to repeat this in the papers for his sake, but he said, I don't think that would ever work for you in Orange. He said it would absolutely damage, you know, your job, your business attraction efforts, you know, significantly. So he said, we never had any other ability, as you said, so we've got to try and make it work. And their projects are few and further between. But again, I don't think that's a process any local municipal leaders want, but it was advantageous for them.
Thank you.
See no other questions? I'm sorry, Chairwoman Benelli.
I just want to thank you. You have navigated through this from the very beginning, very professional. And the most recent incident that brought up highlighting, you've taken a really positive attitude and attacked it head on for what it is.
Thank you.
You've clearly presented in this what Orange County IDA is all about and what it is not all about. And there are very distinct differences, as Legislator O'Donnell pointed out. The idea that we should be more like Rockland County, it doesn't work for us. The idea that the county executive down there signs off on everything. One of the issues that we had here that we saw when we started to take a really careful look at this was the involvement of elected officials with the IDA. The IDA is established to be an independent board not influenced by politics.
I appreciate that.
So you have done everything and you've tackled all of this. This is a phenomenal presentation and I'm very grateful that you brought it to us here today. And Legislator Sassy has a great idea in that this should be revisited because I think there's so much that people don't understand. It is a complex issue. And, you know, even Legislator Ramos brought some things up as far as, you know, how do you get that out to the public? It should be noted that all of their meetings are, you can go on it right now and you can pick up any meetings because they're all on, is it YouTube? The platform?
Through YouTube, yeah, you can live stream all of them.
And you can
Past meetings.
live stream, if you know your meeting's at 4:00, anybody can log on and listen to it. And that includes the elected officials that need to be educated even more. If there's something that's going on there, then they should be looking at it. So they have certain responsibility too, not just waiting for you to show up somewhere. And you do. You're out there and you're very dedicated to this. So thank you very much. And I think this was extremely helpful.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We greatly appreciate that and your support. Last item I mentioned is the good senator, not to pick on him, but he actually introduced a couple of bills that were trying to create new laws to prevent local elected officials from serving on IDA boards. So that's the only reason. I know it sounds like maybe I'm attacking him, fighting back and saying that it was a political maneuver. To me, that's one of the things that proved it to me. He did not want them to be making these decisions. And I think at any cost, he was able to rally a mob the way he looked at it. So obviously those things are incongruent and don't make any sense, but thank you for those comments and all of your support and trust in us, and not just myself, but the board. So thanks very much.
Okay, with that, look for a motion to adjourn. So moved. Okay, all in favor? Aye. We are done. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks.